You're listening to This Golfing Life, a Sounder podcast. My name is Dan Davies, and each week I talk to a different guest about golf and what it means to them.
My mum came out and went, "Tiger Woods is here." And I went, "I know, we've just seen him. He's been through." And then on the 16th, Tiger comes round again and he goes, "You guys still here?" And he went, "We've been in for lunch." And we went, "No, we're on our first round. It's been slow. It's 5 hours now." And he went, "You want to play in with us?" I actually won Golf World's, I don't know if I've ever told you this, Dan, Golf World's Britain's Most Improved Player, 1987. I've got a bottle of White and Mackay whiskey.
What, at the age of 12?
Yes. My dad died recently, and so excuse me if I get emotional, but I did say to him, I went, "Dad, I'm sorry I lost my temper so often on the golf course," because he would go, "Just enjoy it."
The amount of times I was sent to the car after about 8 holes for sort of losing my shit on the golf course.
I never got sent off by my dad, which is a sort of, there should be a system, shouldn't there? That's a yellow. And then you have to go back to the clubhouse. Well, Maurice Flitcroft was a crane driver from Barrow in Furness, who in 1976, aged 46, saw golf on TV for the first time and thought, yeah, that's the game for me. So he entered the Open in 76 and to his surprise shot 121 and was told not to come back for to see if he could make the cut.
Today's guest is an actor, comedian, author, and one of the most in-demand screenwriters in the film industry. So welcome to This Golfing Life, Mr. Simon Farnaby. Well, Simon, I'm delighted to welcome you to the first episode of This Golfing Life, and even more delighted to see that you're wearing your Bund visor from RNGC, which is doing wonderful things for your hair.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the visor has disappeared over the years, but I don't know why, because it allows the hair to go free, keeps the sun off your face, and keeps you nice and cool because it gives you somewhere to go. I mean, just ask Laura Davies.
Who do you think the great visor wearers in golf have been?
Bernard Langer.
Yeah.
Laura Davies, aforementioned.
Dr. Gil
Tom
Morgan.
Dr. Gil Morgan. I think Kite was one. Scott Simpson.
Scott Simpson was a big visor wearer, you are right. And they had huge visors back in those days. The classic, very large, peaked US visor, as worn in the 80s by the likes of Kite, Dr. Gil Morgan, who I'm not sure actually was a qualified GP. Do you have any insight on that?
I don't actually know. Was that how his name appeared on leaderboards and stuff?
I'm not sure if he had doctor in front of it, but I'm pretty sure he was a doctor, wasn't he? Maybe he was a chiropodist or something like that, masquerading as a GP.
Yeah.
So what are you up to at the moment, Simon?
Well, Wonka 2 we've been doing. We're awaiting on Timothy Chalamet to stop winning awards so that he can get on a Zoom with us. I mean, you'll have to do. It was Timothy Chalamet or you. And I got lucky. Because he doesn't know anything about golf.
Does he not?
No, he's really into football, actually. He's very big. When we did rehearsing on Wonka, he went through a phase of, he'd have a different football shirt for every rehearsal we did. And I did bring up golf. And he went, no, I have no interest in that at all.
But listen, let's rewind a little bit to the beginning of your very rich and varied golfing life. When did you start playing? Who got you into the game? And where was it that you started this long and sick love affair with the game?
It's a long and arduous journey. Well, my dad got me into it. I actually started fairly late, I think. I was 12, because I had an older brother, and my dad was a greenkeeper at Ganton, and he learnt all about grass, and then he grew grass for a living. He was a turf farmer. And so golf sort of made his career in a way. He learned how to grow grass, and so he loved golf. He owed golf a lot, and he played a lot of golf. And he got my brother into it. He was 2 years older. My brother tried for a bit, but was sort of just didn't get the bug, I don't think. And then my dad switched to me when I was 12, nearly 13. So this would have been 1985. And I do remember, because I used to go and caddy for my dad. So I just liked being on a golf course. And all these guys, you know, with the trousers. And I actually liked it all, and smoking cigars. And then you'd have a beer at the end. I thought, this looks great. So I would enjoy just watching them play. And then when my brother gave up, my dad, I remember he went to, he started to have a bit of money then, and he went with my mum to Turnberry. And I caddied for him around Turnberry, I think just playing with some random guys. And then he said, why don't you go? So there's a little course off Turnberry. There's a couple of courses there, 18-hole, but there's an 18-hole. And I've never actually seen this before. Well, it's obviously not before, but since even. It's a sort of small course, and it's and it has 4s and 3s, but they're all about 297 yards. I suppose it'd be like sort of Sunningdale Ladies, or you know. So it was a short course, and it's called the Arran course. And I remember vividly because my dad had given me a few pointers, did the grip and everything, and I had a junior set of clubs. He'd got me some clubs, but I hadn't even really played with them until Turnberry. And he showed me a few shots in the driving range, and then he went, "You go and play the Arran course, and I'm going to go and see your mum, and you know I better go and have a drink with your mum, and I'll see you tonight." And so I played the course on my own with a few tips. And I do remember this 12, you know, back end of 12, nearly 13. And I just remember hitting a driver, my Dunlop, I want to say Bluebird or Blue Flash is a type of trainer, but they had a blue writing on it. And I hit the driver, and it went, the feeling of the shot, and I knew it was good. I just took my breath away, and I thought, oh, this is good. That feeling is sort of still with me in a way. And it never, it blew me away, and I just played, and my dad had to come and get me and go, what are you doing? And it was dark, and I was going, I don't know, I can't see the ball. And I just fell in love with it that quickly. And then, I don't know if you want me to cut a long story short, but I did get good really quickly. I got a few lessons at Blackwell Grange Golf Club, and met a load of juniors who I like playing with. And I got good. I went from 36. Well, I joined the club, went from 36 to 12, and then 12 to 6 in 2 years. And I actually won Golf World's. I don't know if I ever told you this, Dan. Golf World's Britain's Most Improved Player.
Really?
1987. Golf World.
I'm going to hunt down a copy of the 1987 edition of Golf World and
I can
verify that fact.
I can show you my. I should have had it for the podcast, obviously, but I've got a bottle of White and Mackay whiskey.
What, at the age of 12?
Yes. I think this was my first year when I went from 36 to 12.
So you were 14, and they're sending you White and Mackay whiskey.
Yeah, and they sent
different times.
They sent me a bottle of White and Mackay whiskey, and I still have it, and I still haven't drunk the whiskey. Weirdly, it's gone down a bit, so there must have been some evaporation. Might be worth a few quid, but it had my name written on it on the label. Britain's Most Improved Player, 1987 it was, yeah.
Well, that is quite a claim to fame, and that is something I never knew about you. I felt that I had a fairly good knowledge of your golfing life, but that is a gem.
No, I'm surprised that we've never brought it up. Well, when I was thinking of this podcast, you know, talking to you, and I figured you'd ask about my early days, and then I went, I did. I won that thing. It's in the attic somewhere. I've still got it.
Is your name on any boards at a golf club? Because my name, I don't think will ever be on a board at any golf club, not even my own. But have you got your name? And did your sort of junior prowess mean that somewhere in the country, Simon Farnaby is written or chiseled into a board?
The quick answer is no. I finished second or third in junior club championships and club championships, and it's always been a regret. There was one time at Darlington Golf Club, the Leech Cup, which had a board, and I tied. I think I shot I think I was playing off 4, so I must have shot 70 because I was net 66, and my dad thought he won that, and I was tied with a guy called Brian English, and I had to do an 18-hole playoff.
Wow, USGA style.
Yeah, and we did an 18-hole playoff, and my dad caddied for me, and I told you there was a short and a long answer. So my dad caddied for me, and he went, "This is for the board," because my uncle Bernard Farnaby was on a board, and my dad didn't get on a board. And he went, "You can get on a board for this." And so he caddied for me in this 18-hole, and he went, "Oh," and we both thought I'd won. And when we totted it up, it was a draw. It was we were level, and Dad said, "That's weird."
What, after the 18-hole playoff, it was still a draw?
Yeah, and Brian, I'm sure he won't still be alive, so I can feel, I can feel I can say, well, like, he went, "Should we not hand our cards in because it's a draw?" And my dad went, oh, okay, I suppose. And when we went home, Dad went, "He put down a 4. He put down a 4 on the last, and he got a 5." And he actually rang him up. He rang up Brian. Because I went, "Oh, it doesn't matter, Dad." He went, "No, it does matter. It does matter. This is gold leaf. This is gold leaf. This is the board." And he rang him up and he said, "I'm really sorry, Brian, but you," and he went, "No, well, we didn't hand the cards in, so it's null and void." And they had a little sort of fight on the phone. So I had to do another 18-hole playoff with Brian English, this sort of 62-year-old guy from Darlington. And a mate of mine, Steve Rogers, caddied for me. And I was absolutely thrashing it. I mean, I must have been 8 shots clear of him. I think I was 1 under gross coming down the 16th at Darlington, and I hit about 9 balls into a housing estate on the left. And my mate, Stephen Rogers, was going, Simon, just hit a 5-iron. I kept going for the green. But I got quite cross, and this might come up again in this podcast, but to my regret, I used to get a little bit cross, especially in my younger days when I thought I might turn pro, and I went, "I'm going to hit this green," and I totally blew it. I had like a 13 or something, and he still only won by 1 shot, and so that was my close shave.
So that was a real tin cup moment. I mean, I had temper issues as a younger golfer. Yeah, I mean, the amount of golf bags I punctured with 5-irons, and I actually did a story once for a magazine no longer around called 4, which was all about club throwing and the different techniques, most of which I'd perfected during my junior days, much to my shame and embarrassment. But yeah,
I remember you doing that, and I'm glad I think I remember sending you a message at the time. I'm glad you were like that because, I mean, my dad died recently, and so excuse me if I get emotional, but I did say to him, when he would sort of, he was in a coma actually, and I went, Dad, I'm sorry I lost my temper so often on the golf course, because he would go, "Just enjoy it, Simon."
That's exactly what my dad said, and I drove him nuts. The amount of times I was sent to the car after about 8 holes for losing my shit on the golf course, javelining clubs into the woods and just generally behaving like a petulant little brat. And then the order was sent to leave the course and go to the car. And I think I drove my dad to distraction. It sounds like you did the same to yours.
I'm even more pleased that you were worse than me, because I never got sent off. I never got sent off by my dad, which is the sort of, there should be a system, shouldn't there? That's a yellow, and then you have to go back to the clubhouse. He would go steady, and he would go Simon when I would be slightly losing it. But he never sent me off.
When did you manage to curb that? Because for me, it's been relatively recently. I think I told people I've made peace with the game, but it drove me nuts for such a long time. But I think for the simple reason it mattered so much.
Yeah. Well, he used to say, my dad would say when around 16, I decided, I wasn't going to become a professional. And it broke my dad's heart a bit, but I was going to go on a different path, a path that would maybe involve a girlfriend or a sort of social life. I used to wear these golf clothes to school, and I went, this won't do. I can't. And also, I just wasn't good enough. Like, I've already said I didn't get my name on the board. I'd played for Durham, and I'd done some England training, and my dad was like, "Oh, Simon's playing for England." And I go, "Well, I'm naturally played for them. I've had coaching, and I was in the upper echelons, I suppose, but I knew I wasn't good enough to be on the TV as a pro. So I was only off 4. And anyway, so I went, "Look, I'm not doing it anymore, Dad." And he went, "Okay." And then I continued. So I went the way of comedy and acting. But I continued to play with my dad quite a lot. But I would still lose my temper, and he would go, "Why are you losing your temper now? You're not doing it for a living. You've given that up. You have a good job, I think, as a screenwriter and an actor. Why are you?" And I go, "I don't know."
Do you think it's because playing with your dad is just so important as a young golfer? I mean, so many young golfers are introduced to the game by their dads. And for me, it was always about wanting to impress him. I mean, if there was somebody I wanted to play well in front of the most, it was most certainly my dad. And when I let myself fall below the ridiculously high standards I set myself, and I was in no way capable of achieving, then obviously the fireworks started. So I think, that lasted into adulthood, to be honest with you.
Isn't it interesting, though, that it's totally counter to what you're trying to do? You're dead right. It was, and I have thought about this since my dad died as well. And I was going, why did I do that? And it's because and you're dead right, digging beneath it. It's because it was really important that he saw that I was a good golfer, and that I would hit a shot and he'd go, "Bloody hell, what a bloody drive. Look at that." And that would really please me. And then when I didn't, if I'd hit a shank into the bushes, it was embarrassing, and I would feel a bit ashamed, or I'd just feel, what a fucking idiot. And I practice, and I come out here and hit a shot like that in front of my dad. But it's counter to what you're trying to do, because you then lose your temper and look like a complete tit. And my dad's going, "I've got a son who loses his temper over a 9-iron at the 3rd hole on Blackwell Grange Golf Club, which is now a housing estate." And, and that's worse than, that behavior is worse than hitting a bad shot.
Yeah. I mean, I'm seeing history.
And yet we're compelled to do it.
I'm seeing history repeating itself now with my 2 sons, who I caddied for in what can only be described as a sibling death match over the duration of last summer on a par 3 course near where we live. And the temper tantrums were extraordinary. And I could only think of my father and just think, God, I really did put him through the ringer with some of my behavior, and I'm deeply ashamed.
What went on in your head when you saw that behavior from your son?
Well, I think I put myself exactly in my father's shoes and felt like my father must have felt. It was like, come on, guys, it's just a game. Enjoy it. Try and hit a nice shot, put the bad shot behind you. All the things I was completely incapable of doing because I was so wrapped up in, as we've just discussed, impressing my dad, who was the most important person. He was the person who introduced me to the game. But just going back to that first experience at Turnberry, I mean, to be set off on a full-size course, even if it was a fairly short course, that's quite something for your first experience and playing alone. I mean, that could have taken you forever, but actually you had that moment where sounds like you flushed one, and then that was the sort of the gateway drug that kept bringing you back.
Yeah, I mean, I remember it so vividly, and then my dad saw that I was really into it, I mean, because my brother had been so sort of a bit laissez-faire and a bit like, oh, are we playing golf again? Oh, and I was like, when are we playing? What are we doing? When are we playing next? And when are we? And he went, oh God. And he got me a junior membership, and I played, this place called Blackwell Grange. And I had that similar thing. I went out and hit some great shots and got a handicap, and I couldn't believe this handicap system. It's so brilliant. I mean, I still love it now. It's a thing you don't have in any other sport in a way, like really. I mean, you do here and there, but I loved that. I loved going, oh, so I'm 36. So if I shoot 6 under my, then it'll be, that's times 0.3. And that'll mean I'll go down to, I can be off 32 on Monday. And you'd go to the club and see, they used to print it out, didn't they? In the old days, before computers. And you'd go and see your printout and your name and your new handicap. And then you'd go to the putting green and go, oh, I'm playing off 25 now. Yeah. And then there'd be another competition. But I loved all that. And I loved that part of it, and that you could do it almost on your own. It could be your little obsession. I remember once as a junior, a guy called Colin Earle, when I got cross with him, and he goes, I remember this was when I was off about 8 and I was trying to get down to, so, what's I then, 15 or something, or 14, 15. And I hit this bad shot in front of him, and I swore, and he turned to me and he went, Simon, nobody else cares.
Which is so true.
And it's so true. Like, I remember thinking, what a fucking arsehole for saying that. And then when I got around to sort of realize it sort of is true, because you plow your own furrow, and you see it. We've done it, we've played together with pros and things, and they're very singular minded and you see how it happens, because you can wrap yourself up in your own game, and you can play it in your own head sometimes. So you're basically you versus the course, and if you manage to finish top, that's great, but nobody else cares.
Well, nobody else does care. I mean, the only person who cares about how you play is yourself. I mean, I always describe the game as a conversation with yourself, and most of the time you don't really want to hear what's being said.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. It's a good way of putting it. I think that answers your question you were saying earlier about when did I think, and similar to you, it's only sort of recently, or, well, when I say recently, I suppose maybe sort of mid-40s. I sort of went, it doesn't really matter how I play, to be honest. And it still does, actually. Obviously, you'd rather hit some great shots and play really well and have some birdies. But it's not actually, it doesn't hurt me like it did at all. And I am glad to get out, and I am glad to have the sunshine and the weather, and I can look around, and especially, as you know, with mates and stuff, it's you're with your mates and you have a beer and you have a chat and you have a laugh, and it's about lots of different things.
How often are you getting to play now? Because you are, you said you're working on Wonka 2. I understand you've just finished, is it, on the latest film, Magic Faraway Tree?
Yeah, so we, yes, the Magic Faraway Tree is out in March. March 27th. Anyone with families or if you just want to see a good film, go and see it. But yeah, it's funny because I had quite a few years of working pretty hard and getting golf in, and we've played together a few times. But I always felt like I was working a bit too hard, and especially since my dad died, and I went and I was actually I'd had 2 weeks off. We've been working on Wonka 2 for a year and a half, really quite hard, and it's been quite a slog. And then I had 2 weeks off, and then my dad had an accident 2 days in, and I was at a range. I was at an indoor golf. Somebody's opened up an indoor golf range in about 400 yards from like a big Rory drive from my house. And so I went down and joined, and because of all the rain and stuff, and I've been going like every day, like a madman. But I was actually there when I heard about my dad's accident, and maybe I keep getting pulled back to it.
You had some amazing experiences with your dad in latter years. I know how close you were to him. I didn't realise he was a greenkeeper at Ganton. How long was he? How long was he there for? And actually, what was he like as a golfer?
His dad owned a garage over the road from Ganton, and they moved there, I think, when he was about 8. And my dad didn't really go to school much because his dad didn't really believe in school and believed in the children working. And he had about 8 kids, and they all worked. They had a little chicken business out the back, and they sold eggs and chickens and also petrol. And they all
Good combination.
lived in one room.
Eggs, chickens, and petrol.
They all lived in one room. And my dad used to go over the road to Ganton. This is all how it started. And collect balls. He was a scavenger, He would go and then he'd collect the balls from all the bushes. There's a lot of bund and a lot of heather at Ganton. And he would gather the balls up and sell them to the members. And one of the members was the head greenkeeper. He encountered the head greenkeeper, and he said, "Seeing as how you're here all the time, why don't you come and do some work for us?" And he went, "Oh, right." And I think he was been about 13 or 14, I think then. And so he went and just started working, on the gang mowers and on the, and was a really hard worker. And so obviously got on really well with the green staff. And then I think he just picked up clubs, on the range and whatever they could find laying around. It's probably been thrown by people like us and the bushes. And he just taught himself, saw everyone swinging clubs. So taught him complete. I don't remember him ever having a lesson in his life. But he had a perfect grip, perfect swing. And he was a big hitter because he was really strong because he was a physical, even after the greenkeeping. So he learned how to grow grass. And then he started doing gardens. And then the family moved away from Ganton to a place called Dalton near Darlington. And he started using his knowledge of, agriculture to do people's gardens. And then he kept up his golf. And he got good pretty quickly and was a member of Blackwell Grange and then Darlington Golf Club, where he was captain later on in his life. But as a golfer, and I don't know how he did it, he was just very smooth, very powerful swing. I remember he had one of those Slazenger, probably quite a big head at the time. Still got it somewhere. And it has the red stripe down the persimmon with the screws. Yeah. And he used to, when I caddied for him, I would just love him. I'd go, get the driver out even when he didn't really need it. Because he would sock it like a bullet, He got down to 6 and stayed there for ages. And even in the last few years, he was still playing great golf. But I will say this, when he started making money from gardening, he met my mum, and my mum was, just say my dad didn't really go to school, but my mum was good at business. And she'd studied she had secretarial skills. So them two combined, my dad worked hard. She did the numbers side of it. And they built a flourishing turf business selling grass to lots of golf clubs. And I think I might have told you this, but not sure again. But my dad built a golf green in the garden when we lived at this place at Croft. And we had about how many acres? Maybe 2 acres, like not much. But it was enough for a full wedge. So it would be about 100 yards. And then he had various tees going in. But we had a green that had sort of 3 slopes to it, 3 sides. There was basically 3 greens all connected with bits of rough. And he made the greens like Ganton. They were basically like, I'm going to make. And not many people have tried this, and it's fucking hard, and as you know. But he dug everything up, planted it with the proper grass, did all that. We had one of those rotary, green. And I was obsessed, obviously, because I was obsessed with golf. I would cut it twice a day in the summer. Twice a day.
That's what you've got to do.
That's how mad I was.
That's what I've discovered with RNGC, that if you're going to get those greens rolling, and they've never been as good as Ganton. But that's fantastic. I never knew that he'd built you a green in his garden. But you had some amazing experiences in later life with him. You know, once you started to find some real success in your career, you were able to repay the favor, if you like, to your dad and take him some places. Tell us a bit about, you know, what you were able to do golf-wise with your dad and some of the highlights you had, you know, in his later years.
Oh, wow. I mean, he, because he worked so hard, his back started to go, and he would always have trouble around the sort of 15th, 16th. He would have to take some pills for his back. And I remember him saying to me, I don't know how long I'm going to continue, you know, be able to, mind you, he was only about 50 when he said this. And he'd go, I don't know how long I can keep up, you know, beating you. And I went, look, we're going to go and play some courses. And it was mostly him, actually. And then it became more me going, we're going to make the most of your golfing life and our time together. And we started going and playing. I mean, we played all over the world, you know. I mean, we went to Valderrama and Portugal, the obvious places, and Scotland, and played Carnoustie and St Andrews. We played St Andrews a few times. Turnberry and Troon, and we used to go to the Opens and watch the Opens everywhere. And we went to America. My dad loved America, so we went to very memorable time, probably the most memorable. So we played a lot in Florida, and we played Sawgrass and Bay Hill and Mystic Dunes and all these amazing courses. But we went to California and we played Spanish Hill and Spyglass, but Pebble Beach was probably a highlight. And we had caddies, and they read all our putts, and he played great and I played great. We hold everything because his caddies would just go, that's 3 feet right. Because of the slope, it's all the slope there with the grain of the greens all goes towards the sea, because the sea's just that. It was a glorious sunny day, and the sea lions were barking away on the. I mean, that course, if you ever have the chance to play it, it's sort of the first 9 holes is cut into the, you know, is sort of fairway, cliff, ocean, and it's incredible, you know. But then we also went for his 70th birthday, I took him to the Masters, to the US Masters. Now, sadly, it was sandwiched in between Sergio Garcia winning and Tiger Woods winning, and we got Patrick Reed, who wasn't my dad's favorite player, but obviously we had an unbelievable time. And now my dad, I'm absolutely sure, spoke to Hootie Johnson, and because he kept talking to the members, so he'd seen the members in green jackets, because he was so bowled over by the state of the place, like the grass in particular. And he just walked up to it. And I remember him sort of getting down and sort of just on his hands and knees and touching the grass and going, like, what is this stuff? And he'd walk around and going, how are they doing this? So whenever he saw anyone with a green jacket on, he'd go, excuse me, what do you do with the grass to get this like this? Now, I think Hootie is a blonde-haired fella. There's one of the famous guys with blonde hair. And I remember him talking to my dad for ages going, well, of course we are. The secret, Jeff, is that mainly, first name, mainly because the course is closed for most of the year. That's the secret, to be honest with you. And then he would tell anyone in the bar later that night, the course is closed most of the time. That's why it's so good. And they only open it. They have a few weeks before, and then they cut it. And he knew everything about all the grass seed there. So that was a great.
There's a lot to be said for keeping a course closed for most of the year and only opening it up for one very special event.
Well, I know it's something that you well, you don't close mind you. I bet you don't play when it's like this. And the rain. My God,
the Sacred Acre is currently underwater. It's horrific, but that. It must have been fantastic. And looking back now, because I know how close you were with your dad, but being able to look back, and we've talked about this before, but to be able to reflect on those experiences with him in later life, not only did he get you started in the game and sort of, transmitted that passion for it and that love for it, but then you were able to, share with him some amazing things that, as a guy who was popping up out of bushes with bags of balls to sell to members at Ganton, probably never thought he was ever going to get to Augusta or Sawgrass or Pebble Beach. So that must be a nice feeling for you.
Oh, great. I've become aware how lucky I was, actually. Speaking to my brother, especially, who has a sense of humor about it and going, well, I wish I'd been good at golf. Although he does say, I had a big talent, but I sort of couldn't be bothered. And I go, well, tough. But no, and my sister as well, she'd go, you were lucky to have that time with your dad. And thinking about it, as much as obviously I miss him very much and I always will, but it does give me, it heartens me to go, how lucky I was to have that time, because golf takes a lot of time, and when I thought about it, on reflection with my mum as well, so your dad would go off on a Saturday, he'd work Saturday morning, and then he'd go off for 7 hours, because you'd have to get there, and then he
told your mum it took 6 hours to play around, of course.
And there's sort of 3 or 4 pints afterwards, and then the drive home with the radio on, listening to the football scores. But it is a good amount of time, and just on top of that, we went to, I think I touched on it, the Open quite a few times, and we saw Seve win in 88 at Lytham, was it?
Yeah,
88,
it was.
and Greg in 89, and lots of, we went when Darren Clark, so many times to the Open to watch things and Ryder Cups. Garcia hit my dad with a golf ball, and gave him a glove. That was a thing for a while.
It was a thing for a while, yeah. Basically, knock somebody out or cripple them, but then, give them a Casco glove and everything's fine.
Sergio Garcia his bag was stuffed with gloves that he knew he would have to hand out on his way around. And then my dad, bless him, gave it to a girl who the ball also hit. Next to the ball, ricocheted off my dad's arm and hit this girl. And my dad gave the glove to the girl. He wasn't a big Sergio fan anyway.
No, I can imagine that. So let's fast forward, or maybe rewind to 2010. The book Phantom of the Open. and which is about the legendary Maurice Flitcroft. For those people, for the few who are uninitiated in the story of Maurice Flitcroft, just give us an overview of this incredible character in the world of golf, and also how you came, along with Scott Murray, to write what I think is the funniest golf book I've ever read.
Bless you! Yeah,
yeah.
that's
So
very kind.
tell us a little bit about Maurice and how you came into that story.
Well, Maurice Flitcroft was a crane driver from Barrow in Furness, who in 1976, aged 46, saw golf on TV for the first time and thought, yeah, that's the game for me. Bought a set of clubs, I think from a catalogue it was. Practiced on the beach. He couldn't afford to join a club. Thought, yeah, I'm good enough, and entered the British Open. Well, sorry, that was in 74. So he entered the Open in 76. And he got in. There was a sort of clerical error. Well, at the time, if you ticked pro, then you got in. And it's actually because of him that there's quite stringent tests in place now, or sort of certainly certification. But he just got in and to his surprise shot 121 and was told to leave, told not to come back for to see if he could make the cut. And so I remember hearing about him, and the juniors used to mention him, and he used to be a sort of a figure of fun, and you were a bit of a Flitcroft if you were crap. And then when I realized that I wasn't going to be a professional golfer, and I turned more towards the dramatic arts. In a way, I remember that story, and I thought this could be a way of marrying my two loves in a way, golf and sort of comedy and TV and film. And in a way, it was sort of, to go on about my dad too much, but it was sort of for my dad in a way to go, look, I know I'm not a professional golfer, but this is what I do now, and here's a sort of thing you'll enjoy because it's about golf, which he did. He really loved it, and we were lucky enough to So Scott Murray, who was actually a friend of my brother's at university, and me and Scott used to drink a lot. And Scott's dad was a really good golfer. He played off too, and me and Scott sort of bonded over golf and had played golf all our lives together.
And Scott, and for those who just don't know, works for The Guardian and does the sort of live commentary, doesn't he? He's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah,
he funny guy. He does football. Funny, he does golf. Witty.
Yeah, and he does great minute by minute.
Exactly that. Yeah.
And whenever I'm away, actually, I think the year Adam Scott won the Masters, it was entirely minute by minute. I did the whole 5 hours in Turkey because I couldn't find a TV with Scott's minute by minute, and he's very funny and describes all the action well with a few jokes thrown in, and Scott had a sort of passion for this story as well, and so we sort of used his journalistic skills really to find out more about Maurice, because there was nothing really known. There was a few articles in the paper, and so we found out, found his relatives and got loads of, got his unpublished autobiography, 500 pages of unedited nonsense, mostly about his attempts to get disability benefit for his various ailments that he had. But he was a real character. He was banned by Keith Mackenzie, who was then secretary of the RNA. He was actually banned from joining a golf club, so he wasn't allowed to join a golf club. And it really upset him. So he vowed to prove Mackenzie wrong and that he could be good enough to play in the Open. And he came back under various pseudonyms and in disguises. Gerard Hoppy was one of them. Arnold Palmtree was another. And he got hauled off the course one by one. They started getting shorter and shorter, obviously Hoppy being the longest, and then Arnold Palmtree being the shortest. He made it. I don't think he even got to the first tee. And they used to have spotters that would look out for him and try and try to stop him playing. So yeah, he was quite a character. I think just embodied just that none of us ever get as good as we want to be. Maurice is sort of the ultimate at that, you know. And in a way, sort of what I loved about him, and it's actually what Mark Rylance did well in Phantom of the Open. There's a great bit, and I think he improvised it, so I can't claim the credit for this, but and it pertains to what we were saying earlier, Dan, about losing your temper, and and it was when Maurice, I think this is at Hillside, which was his second attempt, when he was in disguise as Gerard Hoppy. And Maurice hit a great shot on a par 3, I think it was the 14th, to about 3 feet. And the crowd started applauding, and Maurice describes in his autobiography, I thought, ooh, hang on, I'm getting good enough here. And then I 5-putted, he said. and so we put it in the film, and in the book, in his book, Maurice said, I 5-putted, which was a bit disappointing, is what he said. And Mark Rylance had read this, and then when we shot it on the day, and he's 5 putts from 3 feet, and Mark picked the ball out of the hole, as Maurice said, and he just turned around and he went, well, that was a bit disappointing. And then he smiled and walked off the green. And now when I play, I did it with James Day actually the other week when I played, and I played at Ryan. I think I did a shank out of a bunker, and it flew over some member's head and landed in the bushes, and I just went, well, that was a bit disappointing. And there's something of the understatement and sort of just who cares about it that I quite like.
It's an incredible story, and I think the book, you know, the film is great, and I know that, you know, having spoken to you, that there was a certain amount of sort of adaptation of the story to make it work as a movie. But the book, I think, is just, any golf fan, I've never roared with laughter reading a golf book before, because it's so good, and you have all that material. And, you know, you spoke to his sons, who were disco dancing champions of Great Britain, were they not?
They were world disco dancing.
World disco dancing. I do them a disservice.
Maurice instilled this sort of, you can do what you want. You know, anything you put your mind to, you can do. And they actually did. Unfortunately, it was in a sport which was fashionable for about 4 minutes.
Is disco dancing a sport? I have to pull you up on that. I'm not sure it's ever been included in the Olympics, and I'm sure it probably won't be.
No, and it's funny. They sort of went, I wish you'd pushed us into something more useful that would actually last. I don't know, ice hockey or.
No, it's brilliant. The book is superb. Mark Rylance, was he a golfer before coming onto that film? Because he was, even though he was playing somebody who was very bad at golf, namely Maurice Flitcroft, he actually looked like he had some form.
Yeah, he I put him together with pro at Moswell Hill Golf Club. His name has just escaped me, but he's sort of quite a hippie guy, this teacher. And he's got long hair and looks like he lives in a caravan, and is very zen. And is into those books like Golf in the Kingdom, you know, those a sort of very sort of, you know, and he's Irish. He goes, you got to use gravity. You got to use gravity, Simon. That's the key.
Well, most of us use it every day
I know.
to stay on the planet.
And I actually gave him. I thought Mark's going to love this guy, and he did. He went and had a lesson with this guy, Muswell Hill, and he goes, yeah, he was great. You know, he told me to use gravity, and so that's what I'm doing. He did a good job because he could swing. He could swing a club. He could hit a ball.
Who are the best? Who are the best actors as golfers? Who are the best actor golfers? I know that you worked with Hugh Grant, who is a keen player. Have you played with Hugh?
Do you know what? We keep saying we're going to play. Hugh, I think, is a club thrower. Last time I spoke to him about golf, he said, I've given up. And I went, right. But you were obsessed. And he goes, yes, that's the problem. I found myself at 3 a.m. Googling instructional devices that I attach to my body in various ways, most unseemly. And my wife said, what are you doing? And so I had to stop. And then and then the next thing I know, he's going, we should play Royal St. George's. So I think he sort of quits and starts again and sort of does that. Damian Lewis is a good golfer. He's pretty good. JJ Field, as you know.
Tell us about when you've been happiest on the golf course, because Sounders' guiding philosophy is play well. And that's not necessarily, the score you put on the scorecard at the end of the day, but it could be it's the experience, it's the company, it's the place. You've talked about a magical day at Pebble Beach. But when do you think, what are the days when you sort of flick through the mental Rolodex of great golf days that stick out for you?
Oh, wow. I mean, yeah, there's all the time to my dad, really. But I think the really joyous times that I sort of flicker in my head are one is when I first met a bunch of juniors. It's funny, I can remember all their names: Stephen Rogers, Guy Hillary, Justin Harvey. Colin Earl. He was the nobody cares. I remember all these. What was I, 13? Can't remember any of the names of the school, anyone at school. But what I loved about that, and actually, this is a recurring memory, or a recurring sort of feeling, and I actually had it last. When I go to yours, it's I suppose, to put it in a nutshell, what I loved about that gang of juniors was arsing around, hitting shot, like playing all day long until it got dark, loving every second of being like, you get in and have your sausage, egg and chips and wolf it down in like 8 minutes so you could get back on the course and do, playing like 36 holes at least in the day. So what I love about being at yours is just getting out there, playing with your mates, having a laugh, then doing it again until it gets dark. And then even after it gets dark, still carrying on with torches on your head and,
a very bad floodlighting system.
At the Mini Masters last summer, which came back briefly, I hadn't had it for a few years, had we, at Sunningdale. And after we'd played the round, we all went in and had some drinks and then went out again.
Yeah.
Barely able to stand, but that's what I love. The sun going down, having a laugh, who gets nearest the pin, just bantering and just, because actually you hit some nice shots in that environment because you're so relaxed and those times are great, and they're it's a sort of feeling really of sort of we're all in it together, which I like.
And finally, I know that you have met Tiger Woods. How did that come about?
Yes.
How did you come to meet Tiger, a famously private person, a famously unapproachable person? How did that come about?
Well, this is this is a great story. This, as I talked about earlier, me and my dad, when we're going to go around the world and play golf, and one of them was I hadn't actually heard of it. He went, the K Club. We got to go to the K Club, and I was going, okay. And we went and stayed in Dublin, and we went to the K Club with my mum, and we teed off. So this was in 2005, right? This is the week before the Open at St Andrews, where he absolutely trounced the field. So peak Tiger. And we teed off and walking down the first fairway with our trolleys. And this guy comes up in a buggy and goes, listen, fellas, the marshal, the court manager, would you mind letting the group behind through? And my dad, being a proper golfer, just went, well, yes, because we're not, because we're not being slow. The group ahead have not even cleared the green. We were waiting to hit our second shots. And he went, so no. And he went, no, I understand that. I understand what he's saying, but the thing is, it's Tiger Woods. And we went, what? And he went, yes, he's come with his mates from his college in America, and he's going to, and he's having a little warm up before the Open next week, and they're going to go fast, these fellas, because they're on buggies, so they won't hold you up at all. And so then, of course, we went, okay, and then we watched him come through, and it was tight. We went, what? My dad went, where's the camera? We didn't have because this was before camera. But we went, where's the camera? And I went, I didn't bring a camera. I didn't know we were going to meet Tiger Woods. The Tiger comes through. He goes, hey guys, just gave us a wave, went on his way. We watched him hit, a shot into the green, and then saw him tee off on the next tee, and off he went with his mates in the buggies. Like cans of lager clattering around, and no head covers on, and it was like, oh. They disappeared, and we were like, we missed it. And then my mum, when we got to the 9th, my mum came out and went, Tiger Woods is here. And we went, I know, we've just seen him. He's been through. And she went, oh, I brought the camera out. And we went, well, it's too late now, but got the camera. And then on the 16th, Tiger comes round again, and he goes, you guys still here? In this golf banter. I mean, that's what you would say. And we went, yeah. And he went, we've been in for lunch. And we went, no, we're on our first round. We're just normal playing, visitors. It's been slow. It's 5 hours now. And he went, you want to play in with us? And went, yeah. And so every time I hit a shot, obviously I was shitting myself. So was my dad. It'd just go, that'll work. That'll work nice. And then he went, I think it's on the next tee. He goes, he looked at us and he went, you two father and son? And we went, yeah. And he went, you want to get a photograph? Like he said to us. And my dad went, no, we haven't got our camera. Oh, we have got the camera. Got the camera out. And Tiger got hold of us both. And one of the other lads, his college mate, took a photo and a couple of other photos of me, my dad, and Tiger. And that photo is all over the house. And I think on the 18th, they went off, and we were too slow, and they went, hey, see you later, guys. And they went off. And we went, how about that? And my dad went, how about that? And then that night, actually, his mates were all in the bar, and Tiger was, they went, nice to meet you guys, and they said, I think that Tiger's dad was ill, and I think Earl died the year later, or not long after that.
Just
and I
before
could
Hoylake,
see in his
wasn't
eyes, it was speaking back to Dad's again, but he when he looked at us, he went, you guys, father and son, he could tell it meant something to him, and it was very moving at the time, and when me and Dad talked about it. And but it was very funny. My dad goes, And then he won the Open the week after, and he went, that's because we played with him. We taught him a thing or two.
What a
As if
story.
he's going, man, look at these guys.
What
They
a story.
really know how to play golf.
The fact that
But
you
it
got a
was great,
photo
yeah.
with him, you got a photo with him, somebody who really didn't stop for photos or
No.
autographs, obviously when he was playing tournaments, but B, that he asked you to play a couple of holes with him. I mean,
Yeah.
that is just sensational.
It was incredible. And so that's what I was going to say about the evening, because all his mates were there and they were smoking cigars and drinking. And they were so nice about Tiger. Firstly, they were going, he takes us everywhere, and every year before the Open, he takes us somewhere, and he's brought us here this year. He comes and he flies us in, and he relaxes him, and then they did say tellingly, because this was before the fire hydrant and all that, this was when he was peak God Tiger, the family man, with his 2 children and his lovely wife. But they went, it was about like 1 a.m. or something, and I went, so are you, what's the deal with Tiger? Like, he went, oh, if it wasn't the Open next week, Tiger would be down here and it would be party time. And I went, no. I remember my dad going, no, it's Tiger. And they go, oh, listen, not many people know this, but that guy can go. He can go. And I went, what do you mean go? And they went, he can go. And I went, oh, like go have a party, like have a drink. Yeah. And they were all like going, like nodding and winking, going, yeah. I was like, right. And me and Dad went, what does he mean? My dad kept going, what do you mean? He wouldn't have been up that late. He's a sportsman. And then, of course, about 4 years later, he went, oh, I see. There was a sort of another.
He can definitely go.
He can go.
Well, listen, I think it's time to let you go, Simon. That was brilliant. I look forward to seeing you very soon. Look forward to welcoming you back to RNGC this summer as my partner. I can't compete.
We're going to partner up.
Yeah, I can't compete unless you're by my side. I hope we get to play some golf before then. And
yeah, me too. Yeah.
Thanks very much for being our first guest on This Golfing Life.
It's an absolute honour. Like I was your first singles club champion.
Very much so. You were.
That's the only board I'm on. That's the board I'm on.
You are actually on the board at RNGC because you are the inaugural singles club champion. So, I will get some gold leaf in time for next for this coming June. So
Dream come true.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for your time, mate. Thank you for listening to This Golfing Life, a Sounder podcast. You can find out more about Sounder at soundergolf.com. If you want to follow me and find out more about RNGC, Britain's premier backyard golf course, you can find me on Instagram at RNGC 2021. Thanks for listening.